as part of the receivership that Prompt was managing?
Well, I am aware that the Gambia Ports Authority manages a warehouse. There is a warehouse at the ports, and I don't know how many warehouses there are, but I am assuming there's a warehouse. I don't think I've been to that warehouse many times. I don't recall the last time I have ever been to the warehouse at the ports. I don't know how many vehicles there were or the make, but I keep saying that there is a documentary trail. Augustus Prom provided a detailed inventory of what was handed over. That record is there. It's at the ministry, and the new receiver, Alpha Barry, also documented what he received from Augustus Prom. So there is no way that these items cannot be traced from that documentary trail. It should be there. It's a matter of looking at the handing over notes, if you like, from Augustus Prom via the ministry to Alpha Barry.
Yeah, this is why I'm still asking, because for Prompts, this formed part of the report he shared with the committee. For Alpha Barry, this never formed part of his submissions, nor his report that he shared with us. And you've been at the center in terms of appointing both receivers, and even to an extent mentioning your name that some of these things were handed over to you. I would want to believe you should be the right person to furnish this committee with the facts.
Well, that's because you're assuming that what Louis Prom said is true or accurate.
I'm not really assuming. I am giving you the benefit of the doubt to clarify. To clarify what really Prompts alleged to say he handed over to you.
But I have just given you the explanation that would have been impossible, and I gave you the reasons why it would have been impossible. It certainly was handed over to my office. I can assure you of that fact. It was handed over through the civil litigation, and the person to have received this would have been the director of civil litigation, not even the Solicitor General. And why would I go all the way to the ports as Attorney General to receive keys of a car and a scanning machine? It doesn't make sense. That's why I said, Mr. Prom, if you look at his testimony again, I'm sure we'll contact this committee to rectify that. But that aside, there is a warehouse, there is a documentary trail. Let's look at the record. The records are there. I'm sure Mr. Barry hasn't finished his testimony yet, I understand. He would have an opportunity to present to you those documents if you ask.
Mr. Tambedu, if you would allow me, I just want to move on with this chair.
No, I just wanted to correct something from his statement. Sorry. Yes, Mr. Tambedu, you know, when Mr. Prom came, what he said it willingly. I'm not sure he was forced to say anything here. What he said it willingly. I remember when Counsel was asking him, he was the one explaining, and Counsel was making a follow-up. That video that we had, it's a testimony that Mr. Prom willingly said.
Yes.
So if you say we should correct that, I don't understand.
Oh, no, I mean, he should. He will, yes.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Prom will correct that. In fact, if I recall, Mr. Chair, I only met Mr. Prom twice during the entire period of his receivership, and they were both in my office. One was when I was offering him the role of receiver. He accompanied his father, because it was his father that I was engaging, Mr. Augustus Prom Senior. And the second time was when I met with him to discuss the issue of Social Security. That was, to the best of my recollection, these were the only two occasions I met Mr. Prom. I think even when he was handing over, I didn't get the opportunity to meet with him. I think he was meeting with my staff, as he was doing more often in the course of the receivership. He was dealing more regularly with the staff members of the civil litigation department. So I was referring to Mr. Prom. When he sees this exchange today, I am sure he will contact the committee to rectify that, because that is indeed not the case. It was not handed over to me as in my individual capacity.
Yeah.
Mr. Tamil, you know, the last witness, just to give you a reference, who came before you, we agreed at some point that the reports given to us in terms of figures and numbers is not something that one could rely on. By extension, your own staff who were representing you, more especially in the sales of the cattle and vehicles, when we look at the figures with them, they agreed with us that the figures that were in the report has discrepancies. Because we did the mathematics in the open. Yeah? So if you should tell me that I follow the trail of the handing over to know where these items are, I might not really get the facts. And I'll give you another reference. And before giving you that reference, I would ask you, what do you know about the mining sites?
Before I answer that question, in your preamble, you said my staff who were involved in the sale of cattle. Let's be clear about it. The Ministry of Justice was not involved in the sale of cattle. We went there to observe the sale by the judicial officers who were selling the cattle. And they are not my staff. They are under the judiciary. We need to be clear about the lines of responsibility here. So staff members...
Can I ask? Is Mr. Ali Jallo your staff?
Yes, Ali Jallo was the staff of the ministry as Registrar General.
I can tell you for free. I don't want us to get into cutting videos, but I can get you a video of Ali agreeing to the fact that he participated in the sales of the cattle, and records are there.
And I'm sure you will also know that Ali did say that he was instructed to go and observe.
Yes.
Yes. So, Counsel, if you just allow me, because otherwise we will not be helping each other. I'm sure you will also recall that Ali did say that he was sent to observe. Now, if Ali decides to go beyond his instructions and engage in what we call a frolic of his own, then that is not the business of the ministry. Officially, he was asked to go and observe. And that is the extent of the responsibility of the ministry at that point.
Fair enough. The question.
Yes. In terms of, you said about the sand mining.
About the machines at the mining sites.
Which machines and which mining sites?
The refining machines at the coastal mining sites. Sanyang. The ones that were transferred to Gach.
Honorable, you're asking me questions that I have no personal knowledge about. I mean, what would be, can you provide me with some context to help me understand where you're going with this question?
You know, it's all going down to the issue of the scanning machine. Because you said this machine should be at the ports because you cannot carry them physically. You said so, right?
Indeed. Yep.
Right. And these machines also, I am asking, at the coastal mining sites, these were machines that form part of the Janneh Commission report with regards to APAM, Tony Gazi, and all not. I think now you should have a recollection of what I am telling you.
I certainly recall the names, yes.
The names. And the reason why I am asking you about these machines is I just want to kind of clear your mind to the fact that thinking no one could move these machines, for me, I just want to disagree with that. This is why I'm asking you about these mining machines, because part of the investigations I have conducted, I realize these machines are in Casamas. And as we speak, they are under a legal pursuit. And doing the correlations, people who are involved in that legal tussle in Senegal in relation to those mining machines form part of the report that were shared by the Janneh Commission. So for me, to tell me even that scanning machine is in this country, I cannot believe it until if you, Mr. Tambedo, and your ministry are able to prove to this committee that you know where this machine is located and where it is.
If I may just respond there, your question raises a number of issues that you need to clarify before I can even attempt to respond. But starting with the last point about the machine and the ministry proving, Honorable, this is the whole point of this exercise, is to establish the facts, And all you will get from witnesses here, they give you the context, they give you facts in their knowledge, and it's for you to verify those facts. And you verify those facts by engaging in a number of activities, by asking the witnesses questions, by even conducting site visits. All I can say here is the assumption is that the machines are at the ports, because we're talking about container scanning machines. I'm not discounting the fact that the machines couldn't be moved. I said you can't put them in your pocket and go away with them. But the machines were brought into the country in the first place, so obviously they were moved from one location to another. And they could also be moved again. I don't know. But what I'm saying is, in terms of the chain of custody, that is documented. And you can easily verify that from the handing over notes that Augustus Pom submitted. And we can also verify from Alpha Barry when he took over the receivership. So that's the first point I'm saying I want to establish. The second one is the machines you keep referring to APAM, etc. I mean, who owned those machines? Did the Janneh, if you just allow me to continue, I know you.
I'm really allowing you to. Yeah.
Who owned those machines? Were they owned by APAM, by the former president? Did the Janneh Commission order that those machines be taken? Were those machines forfeited? I need to, you see, you're asking me all these details about these assets. At my level, at the policy level, I am not involved in the day-to-day management of these processes. That's not for the minister. The minister deals with the policy. And if you want to know the details about how these issues were managed at the practical level, day-to-day level, then perhaps you should consider directing those questions to someone who was involved directly in those processes. But at my level, you think at that time I would be going around asking for where those machines are, etc. I had staff that I delegated those responsibilities to. But I would like to know, and I would like to help you. I'd like to help this committee and help the public know the questions that you're asking. And I want to know exactly what is the provenance of these machines, who did they belong to, were they identified by the Janneh Commission as machines that should be forfeited, etc. I want to understand the provenance of your question.
Yes, Honorable, these said machines form part of Janneh Commission's report, volume 9, if I can recall.
Okay.
And part of the recommendations form was for these machines to be forfeited to the state.
Okay.
And by extension, APAM Asset Company was asked to pay certain amount, I think, in between 30 or 6 months. I didn't have the document before me here.
Indeed.
But
I
then,
recall that.
the reason why I am insisting to ask this, because, you know, for me, I was privileged to this information through the records. I would say a document that almost you coordinated or authored.
Which document?
The Janneh Commission report.
Well, I have to.
Because you submitted it, I think.
No, No, you see, that's why I'm trying to help you, Honorable, so we don't conflate issues. Huh?
Okay.
The government had nothing to do with the Janneh Commission report. It was the Janneh Commission that wrote its report, all 9 volumes, and handed it over to the President as required by the Constitution. The government then authored a white paper in response to the Janneh Commission. So the report of the Janneh Commission has nothing to do with either the government or myself or the ministry.
No, it's almost all the same. Like the Mandinkas would say, Babula Julora.
No,
let's get this.
It's not the same.
No, let's get this now. Now you are leading me to another point. What was government's report, response with regards to the mining sites on the white paper? What interest do government form on the white paper regarding mining and regarding those companies and the equipments that were at that site?
In general, the government accepted every recommendation and finding of the Janneh Commission. And where it did not accept a recommendation, and there were a few, perhaps less than 1% of the recommendations, the government provided a reasoned opinion as to why it did not accept. So as far as I recall, the government accepted the Janneh Commission's recommendations on APAM and the mining issues that the Janneh Commission identified. And so if the Commission recommended for the forfeiture of those machines, the government would have accepted that recommendation, and the government would have taken control of those machines as a result of that acceptance. And it would have been formed part of the equipment that were inventorized and taken custody of either between Augustus Pom and Alpha Boy and the ministry, of course.
And that is the shocking part, to realize those equipments are no more even in this country. We can progress. That is not something we have to really push with you. I would have just wished that you know about some of these equipments as the then AG, and also to share with us maybe what you really know about some of these things. But then, you know, we know how to really follow in terms of what we need. I think we can progress with other questions. Yesterday in your submissions, Honorable Tambede, you talked about fourth foundation. Can you deliberate more on this foundation? What engagement have they made with the government? Where does it actually initiated? And if really at any point government was also documenting the engagements they were having with this foundation?
The Ford Foundation is a very well-known foundation based in the United States. And they do a lot of support work to governments and non-governmental organizations, or through non-governmental organizations, and so they are quite well known. At the time that they visited the country was awash with foreign visitors, international organizations, governments, foreign parliaments, international non-governmental organizations. There were a lot of visitors to the country at that time. I guess, as they say, we were buzzing around the world. And so the Ford Foundation was one such international organization that came to the Gambia. I believe they went to the Janneh Commission to observe what the Janneh Commission was doing and interacted with them. I do not have a lot of information about that interaction, but I can tell you when they came to see me, what our interactions were. They conveyed to me their impressions of our transitional justice process, starting with the Janneh Commission, and how impressed they were with the setup and the structure, and that they even said they were considering encouraging other countries in the sub-region to emulate the structures that we have established in the Janneh Commission. And that's why I kept telling Counsel Dibber that while the rest of the world is proud of what we are achieving here, we are here downplaying that and without attaching any yardstick to it. But at least those who are experienced in these kind of processes were very impressed with what we had. But as far as I was concerned, they came and we had that exchange. But like I did at every opportunity in those days, I was seeking help. So I took them around to a part of the ministry that I thought also needed desperate help, which was the Registrar General's office, where we have the deeds register of lands, etc. Because in my earlier tours at the ministry, when I visited the deeds, the office where the deeds register was, I saw that, you know, there are piles of these huge ledgers dating back perhaps to the 60s and 70s, where information was manually stored by handwritten, in a handwritten form. And some of them, because of, unfortunately, because of rains sometimes with leaking roofs, some of the papers were almost fading by virtue of time, but others were fading because they were affected by water, etc., and the inks were fading. And I was worried because I know the potential trouble that we will be here insofar as land management and registration is concerned if that data is lost in that registry. So I took them around and showed them with their naked eye so that they see what the challenges was, and I subsequently made a request for them to provide us with support to digitize the lands register in the country. And they were very open to the idea because they saw the need for something like that. So as far as I was concerned, that was the extent of my engagement with the Ford Foundation. I took them around and requested support from them.
Do they offer any technical or financial support to the ministry specifically?
Not to the ministry, not at that point, no.
To your knowledge, to the commission?
I do not know if they offered any kind of support to the commission.
Okay, because you did not know?
No.
Okay. Because what I saw on their website, they have offered the Gambia $125,000 to support the commission.
Again, it shows how
yes, and also one of the witnesses who were here said they supported in offering forensic audit. And it will also interest me to know if in a situation they have conducted any forensic audit, if that was to your knowledge.
That information that you're sharing with me, Counsel, shows a number of things.
Honorable.
Honorable, shows a number of things. It illustrates that the commission was acting in full independence of the ministry. That we were not involved in what the commission was engaged in with third parties. That's first. And second, when these organizations mention amounts of money as support to entities, it doesn't mean they gave cash. The support can be in different forms. So, for example, if they send personnel to come and...
Should we not preempt that?
Sorry?
I said, should we not preempt that? I don't just want us to preempt maybe what their support was directed to, since you said you are not privileged to the information. Because yes, maybe either the commissioners or the late council or members of the commission, you know, should be in a position to give us an answer. And you might actually prepare their mind in terms of the submission you might actually make here.
Okay, well, I'm sure members of the Commission and Council would be better placed to explain this. I would just wanted to, again, these processes are meant to also educate the public about some of these things. And so I wanted to take the opportunity to explain that when,
All right, you can.
when monies are mentioned as part of support, it doesn't necessarily mean that cash is given. In fact, that's the exception. What is the norm is that the support is provided in the form of technical assistance, a sector, and then they take the sum total of that technical assistance and present it as the amount of money that was provided as support. But it comes in the form of technical assistance, etc. So I'd be very surprised if the cash was given to the Commission. Knowing organizations like the Ford Foundation, they don't operate that way. So it must have been through technical assistance.
Let's come to the appointment of Alpha Capital. How will you regard Alpha's appointment?
How will I regard that?
Yes, either, let's say, as an individual or as a corporate entity in between these two lines.
All of my appointments and engagements were done in individual capacities, just like I did with Augustus Prom. I also did with Alpha Barry in their individual capacity.
But now, why is it that on the communications that are sent to these individuals, instead of addressing it to them as individuals, these communications are addressed to them as a corporate body?
It was Alpha Barry who advised us to put Alpha Capital as the other party in the engagement letter with them, but it's certainly Alpha Barry that we engage.
Alpha advised you to put Alpha Capital on the engagement letters, you said?
Yes, it was his suggestion.
Was it not supposed to be your responsibility to advise Alpha on legal issues instead of him advising you?
We didn't see any. If there was a legal issue, we would have, but we didn't see any issue. The ownership of Alpha Capital, if it's Alpha Barry who has 99.9%, it's in law, Counsel. That's not your field. I don't want to get technical.
Yeah, I will indulge for you to help me there. But before you help me on that point, what does the law say on the Companies Act, the 2013 Act?
About what?
About appointing a receiver.
But you see, Counsel, that's a very open-ended question. The Companies Act is this big, and I want you to be specific in terms of what you mean.
Yeah, because for me, the law is in disagreement to appoint a receiver at a state of a corporate entity.
But we didn't appoint a corporation. We appointed Alpha Barry. I just answered your question.
But your communications are directed to a corporation, not to an individual.
I'm not sure even Alpha Capital is a corporation. So you're getting into very slippery waters here.
Alpha is
That's why I said
he is registered as a business.
you said corporation. So
I just said a corporate entity. What I meant about a corporate entity here is a legal business entity, because for me, any registered enterprise or entity with the state, I can refer to it as a corporate body. That is just.
that's why I said the Companies Act is this big. It's not as simple as you make it. But in any event, for your question, Alpha Boy was appointed as an individual, just like I appointed Augustus Prom, just like I appointed Ami Ben Suda. I think we have all seen the communications coming from Ami Ben Suda with the letterhead of her office. I mean, people work in a certain manner. I don't have issues with that, so long as there is clear understanding that the assignment was given to the individual, then that suffices for me.
Honorable Tamberi, I will leave the issue of Alpha Barry's appointment. Maybe the council will take that up later with you. But I have the same problem with directing communications to Ben Suda as an institution than an individual. It's almost the same thing. And I also have a problem having, with all due respect to her, having Ben Suda being appointed as an individual and exposing evidence to members of her bar. Not only exposing evidence to members of her bar, but inviting individuals from her bar to work with her at the Janneh Commission. And
Honorable, first and foremost, I believe the correspondences between the ministry and Mr. Alpha Barry were addressed to Mr. Alpha Barry. So we will perhaps get the opportunity to go through some of those correspondences. But clearly, if I recall correctly, they were addressed, Mr. Alpha Barry was the addressee. That's one. And two, I believe, Honorable, that Mrs. Ben Suda's actions in getting staff from her chambers, support her, assist her, is born out of good faith, was born out of good faith and a desire to get the job done, and to get the job done as quickly as possible, because the resources, as I keep saying, were not sufficiently allocated for the Janneh Commission to conduct its proceedings in a manner that was befitting, and that is why the ministry itself had to deploy our own resources. I have given the example of how we deployed our heavy-duty photocopying machine, our vehicles, our drivers, etc. So everybody was chipping in to make sure that the proceedings were conducted as expeditiously as possible, and with the highest standards at our disposal. So I wouldn't fault Ms. Ben Suda for bringing on additional resources from her chambers to assist her carry out her work in the way that she ought to have.
Honorable Tambedi, with all due respect, for me, as much as her conduct might be out of good faith, I also want to understand that public office is not operated in the way we want it. Public office is guided by laws and principles. For example, as a member of Janjambure, I cannot bring any other person with me at the National Assembly to get into any other office, or in fact to invite any other person from Janjambure to support me to the work of this committee. The mandate is not for them to come in and help in good, whatever faith I might have. The mandate is for me to do the work. And in this situation as well, the mandate was Ben Suda was the one appointed, not any of her family members or any of her staffs at her chambers.
You know, Honorable, I would disagree with that view. When Mrs. Ben Suda was appointed in her individual capacity, there was nothing that said she couldn't rely or find support or assistance in the execution of her responsibilities. Nothing stopped her from doing that. And appointing her in her individual capacity, I think, perhaps betrays a lack of understanding of the magnitude of the task that she had to confront with. I provided her with some support from my ministry, with a few of the lawyers, 2 or 3. But I am sure that that wasn't enough. I am sure that that was the reason why she called for additional resources from her own chambers. just because you are appointed let's take this setup, for instance, this select committee, special select committee. The team of lawyers that you have here are not members of the select committee. They are not members of the National Assembly. Members of the select committee are. They may be members of the National Assembly service, but not members of the National Assembly. And the members of the select committee can only be nominated from amongst members of the National Assembly. Yet you have called upon them to assist you in this exercise. I'm just trying to, as I always do, I try to give analogies so you can. I try to break it down.
No, with that, I will take you back to the mandate that institute this select committee. Part of the mandate requires that this committee be supported by a technical team, a staff.
Where is that mandate published? Because I saw the terms of reference and I don't recall seeing that.
Can we have the motion that was?
There's a motion.
That's true. Yeah, there is a motion.
There was a motion.
And the motion was supported by members of the National Assembly. And it includes that this select committee be assisted by a technical team, where it mentioned the council and the investigation and all that.
Okay.
So
well, that was information that I was not privy to. The information that I was privy to was the initial setting up, establishment of the select committee, which makes no reference, as far as I could see, to a legal team. Was it done at the same time when the select committee was
maybe you didn't
established?
maybe you didn't get to read the motion.
Maybe you read the second motion, the extension.
No, not the extension. I'm talking about
the first motion led by Honorable Majority Leader.
Is that on the website?
I will assume, yes.
It must be there.
Yes.
If it's not on the website, it must be on our Facebook page.
But then before the end of the day, we will provide you with the motion. But my point here is, you made it very clear that Ben Suda was appointed as an individual.
In her individual capacity. Yes.
And my point is, that does not qualify her to outsource people to support, and also by extension, exposing, I would in fact say, confidential documents. And if you give me the answer, I would give you what it have cost this nation.
Honorable, my response to that is this. It's clear that Ben Suda was appointed or assigned in her individual capacity. There was no restriction placed on how she could be assisted in her work. And to use outsourcing may be inappropriate in this case, because it perhaps denotes that some kind of payment was made to her support team from her office. I believe, stated earlier that no other member of Mrs. Ben Suda's chambers was paid by the state. And so if Mrs. Ben Suda, in her wisdom, wanted to rely on extra support for her work, there was nothing that prevented her from doing, because there was no restriction in the engagement.
That is fine.
Yeah.
Are you not worried, Mr. Habib Drame is not been called by the commission as a witness? Are you not worried about this, considering the fact that he was one time working with few institutions that were adversely mentioned by the commission? Not just working with one or two institutions, but he was the head of those institutions.
No, I am not worried, because I trust in the judgment of the commission, which was acting independently to assess the materials that they had access to and to make their determination as to which witnesses to interview and which witnesses to interview and hear in public.
Are you not worried from Mr. Kurang's submission that he was sacked almost by the influence of Mr. Habib Drame?
As far as I am concerned, and as far as I know, Mr. Alaji Kurang was removed based on my specific request to His Excellency the President, following my consultations with members of the Commission, Council, and Mr. Kurang himself.
But with all indications, Mr. Drame was communicating for Kurang to leave that office, even without a formal letter, when he objected and said he needed a letter for him to vacate that office. Was that not too much for Mr. Drame to act?
I am not sure I follow you on this when you say Mr. Drame was communicating.
Yeah, to Mr. Sise, Ibrahim Sise.
To do what?
Secretary to Cabinet.
Yes, to do what?
To tell Kurang that let him pack and leave the Janneh Commission. He was sacked by the President. And that was when Mr. Kurang suggested he needed this in writing.
You giving me information for the first time. This is the first time I'm hearing about this. I can only tell you what I did, and I think I have been very open and clear about my part in this, and I would only reiterate my position that as far as I am concerned, Mr. Kurang's removal emanated from my engagement with His Excellency the President.
And you wouldn't really want to agree even on a bit of that conflict within the Commission, then looking at Counsel Ben Suda's family ties with Mr. Habib Drame, who was one time.
If family relations in government is the only basis for conflict, then no two members of the same family will work in the same government in this country. Your brother can be the governor of the central bank, and you will be the Solicitor General. Is there a problem with that?
But this was a special assignment that was informed by indicators. So, by the look of things, one should be able to identify where some of the conflicts are. For example, you've been given the discretion to appoint a council. Yes, we know Gambia is a small country, we are all interrelated and all not Mr. Tambedu. But the person you are appointing as a council, you should also factor that that person shouldn't have that connection at certain level. Because, for example, you appointing a council and he or she is investigating somebody who was heading a particular institution that is adversely mentioned. Will that not become a selective justice kind of?
Honorable, from my experience in both government and outside government, sometimes in this country we demand standards of integrity in public office that you will not find anywhere in this world, and that's only based on people's imagination. I have seen President John F. Kennedy appoint his brother, Robert F. Kennedy, as his Attorney General. If you did that in this country, people will be up in arms and call it conflict. So, I mean, these are things that we set for ourselves in a small country where really, as you said, people are somehow related directly or indirectly. And we make these demands of integrity and high standards in public office that do not exist anywhere in the world. Honorable.
Thank you. I wouldn't waste our time. Just a very final one. What will be your take about an offshore company in Morocco, the mall in Morocco that used to belong to the former First Lady?
I don't know if that That is
It formed part of the report on RS 65, in case you want to have a look.
I don't mind having a look at all, but I recall certainly that the Janneh Commission deployed investigators to Morocco to confirm reports of properties owned by the former president. I do not recall now what their finding was or what the recommendation was with respect to those properties. So I would be happy if you could refresh my memory on that.
You can look at RS 65. It contains that part of the report. And it's becoming that you don't seem to recall anything that is related to the former president. More especially, you know, with things that are fortune or wealth related.
No, Honorable, I think I have been very forthcoming with my responses. I'm human, I forget, and when my memory is refreshed, I remember it happened yesterday, once or twice, and it's not about not remembering things when it comes to the assets of the former president. I just, at the personal level, was not interested in the assets at that time. At that time, I was more interested about making sure that the political environment in this country was conducive enough for you to be able to offer yourself as a candidate for elections to the National Assembly. That was my preoccupation at that time.
That was a collective preoccupation. You might not know how much effort we were also doing at the grassroots level in ensuring peace prevail in this country. And we appreciate your efforts. However, our expectation is it should have been done carefully, diligently, and, you know, with some positive results. But I think at some extent you will agree with me that there was so much public outcry with regards to the Janneh Commission. And that even reminded me, who decided for the return of the APRC vehicles to APRC?
I believe, Honorable, that the transition period was handled diligently, carefully, and sensibly, which is why this country did not suffer the fate of many other countries that couldn't transition successfully post-dictatorship to a democracy. I think the fact that we are now being touted as a model for transitional justice showed that the process was managed diligently and carefully and sensibly. And we should be proud of that. Because when we make comments like this, Honorable, we are not using any yardsticks. We're just basing it on our imagination of how things ought to have been. But the experts in this field, those who know better than all of us, commend our processes, commend the way in which we manage our process. Excuse me. Excuse me, I get a little bit emotional and agitated when I hear. No, but the thing is, you know, we are all making comments without using a yardstick, and this has been a constant theme in this country. We should have done this, we should have done that. It was too late. You only need to look at the examples in other countries and see how well we have done, how well we have fared compared to those examples. And that's why I keep saying the Gambian model is now being touted as a model around the world. Foreign entities are sending people here to study what we did. Foreign countries are inviting our people to go and share their experience. So let's not downplay what we had here.
Honorable, sorry, we are not downplaying, we are just finding facts, with all due respect. And in the process of finding facts, one might find some hurdles along the line. But then, at some point, we appreciate the work of the Janneh Commission. In the same way, I would also like for you to appreciate the work of the Alkali Commission.
You know, no need for comment. All right, thank you, Chair. Thank you for sparing me.
Just to guide you, Honorable, RS65 is a report made by the government to Morocco to look at some of the assets or properties that belongs to Janneh and associates. That's the report, chapter 1.
Yes, Honorable, please go ahead.
Yes, we can come back to that later. You know, today is Friday. Yes, I don't want to. But then, I just want to understand about these assets, their conditions, what was done, because a lot of work was done around these properties, including the mall.
Yes, indeed, Honorable, if you recall, I did confirm that the Commission deployed a team of investigators to Morocco to establish the facts of ownership of certain properties that were reportedly owned by the former president and or his spouse. And I said I don't recall what the Janneh Commission's findings were in the report, and I wanted my memory to be refreshed. But what you're showing me now is actually the report of the mission and the plan that was undertaken, which is what I have already referred to. So I need to be reminded about what the Janneh Commission's findings was, because right now I don't recall what they found about those properties in Morocco.
So that is the situation we are equally in. What they reported on was just their finding.
No, in the Janneh Commission final report, I mean, what was the finding made with respect to these properties? That's what I can't recall now.
So that is one of the volumes we have before us, and that's what it contains.
No, this is not a volume. This is a compilation of your investigators.
Right.
Yes, but this is the report of the mission, the plan, etc., by the Janneh Commission.
Okay.
If you understand what I mean.
I understood what you mean, so then we will get there, but I just want to gauge your knowledge on your understanding on it, but you can do that for us later.
Okay. I don't remember. If I have the Janneh Commission report on that matter, I can quickly take a look at it, and maybe that would refresh my memory.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable. That was a good exchange, yeah? Good. So, Mr. Tambi, we'll go further. You know, yesterday when we started, you and Counsel, we were talking the issue of conflict of interest. And we wanted to establish the fact that there was conflict. And you denied that there was no conflict. Even if there is conflict, it arose at a time when the lead counsel recused herself from the proceedings of the Social Security. Now we want to play a video for you to look at. So yesterday I was trying to tell you, the lead counsel, in fact, took the testimony of the former managing director of Social Security. So at what point did she recuse herself from the whole commission and not to take up Social Security as a lawyer for the Social Security? Maybe I think I can play that video for us. Okay, I think you can stop it. Good. So, I want your reaction on this because yesterday, I mean during the proceeding, I recall you denied that the lead counsel did not take part when Social Security was brought to the commission.
Yes, what I did say, Mr. Chair, was that when the commission was about to probe Social Security, lead counsel declared a potential conflict of interest to me and recused herself, after which I appointed Musa Bachili to cover Social Security, the Social Security part of the proceedings. Now, I recall you also referred to this exchange between lead counsel and Graham, the former managing director of Social Security. Counsel, can you help provide me with the exchange, the letter between Social Security and Ms. Ben Suda that was in June, I think, before the commission was established? Do you still have that? I just want to confirm the date in any event of that letter. Do you recall do you know the letter I am talking about?
Honorable Chair, yes, there's a letter that the committee has. Secretariat will look for it, but it's June 2017.
It's June 2017. Yeah. And so my response would be the following, Honorable Chair. The first is that, again, I keep saying, conflict is determined on a case-by-case basis. There is no hard and fast rule as to what obtains conflict or not. It depends on the facts. And that's why I keep saying that the UN itself has a whole department that looks into conflict. That's the first point to make. The second point to make is this. If I understand correctly, Mr. Graham was not the managing director of Social Security as at the time that he was appearing before the commission. That's my understanding. And if that is the case, then the question is, was Counsel Ben Suda counsel to Social Security at the time that Mr. Graham was managing director?
I will ask IT to play that video again.
Okay.
There is something mentioned under Graham's name, whether he's the former or the managing director of Social Security. IT, can you play that again?
Okay. At the time that Counsel Ben Suda was leading him before the commission, I believe that was Manjang was the director or someone.
Let's play the video again.
Okay.
So Mr. Tambele, you see, it doesn't matter who is the managing director at the time. Madam Ben Suda, Social Security is a client to Madam Ben Suda. Whether Graham is the managing director at the time or not, is it proper for Ms. Ben Suda to probe into the issues of Social Security in a commission?
Again, I'm just sharing my experience and my personal views on conflict. Conflict has to be also situated in time. And that's why I say conflict depends on the specific facts that you're presented with. And if Mr. Graham, assuming that Mr. Graham was managing director at a time when Counsel Ben Suda was also retained by Social Security as counsel, now I could see conflict, potential conflict arising by this act, by Counsel Ben Suda leading Mr. Graham's evidence as it happened. But if Counsel Ben Suda was not retained as counsel for Social Security at the time when Mr. Graham was managing director, then it's not very clear again. You can't say there was conflict or not. So I'm just saying I am not convinced that this would amount to conflict at this stage. Simply because we are dealing with a situation where I don't know if Counsel Ben Suda was retained by Social Security at the time when Mr. Graham. But what I know is that once Counsel Ben Suda was engaged in 2017 from June, and Social Security was being probed by the commission, when staff who were either managers or the managing director of Social Security were being called, she did not take part in that probing. Another lawyer was assigned to take part.
So at what point did Counsel Ben Suda inform you about a potential conflict? Is it before the testimony of Graham or after the testimony of Graham?
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't recall. I keep saying I wasn't a keen follower of these commissions. And even if I did right now, I wouldn't be sure about the dates because it was not something that was at the time significant to me for me to keep track of the dates in any event. But I can't recall now, Counsel, whether it was before or after. I wasn't even sure if Mr. Graham had appeared before the commission until you mentioned it to me yesterday. So this was the extent of my following of these commissions at the time.
So you're saying when Mr. Graham appeared before the commission at the time, Counsel Ben Suda was not retained as...
I don't know that. That's what I'm saying. I don't know the facts about her retainership at Social Security when Mr. Graham was managing director at that time.
Yeah, because we wanted to establish that not only Mr. Graham appeared before the lead counsel, you know, there were staffs in Social Security who also appeared before him, before her.
Yes.
So,
and it goes to the same point. If unless I know what Mrs. Ben Suda's relationship was with Social Security as at that time, I wouldn't be able to. If indeed
But Ms. Ben Suda has been the lawyer for Social Security for a longer time.
You know, there's a difference between ad hoc engagements and retainership. I think all the lawyers here can tell you that they get assigned work by different state-owned enterprises at different times. And that the state-owned enterprises sometimes have a retained lawyer who is engaged for a longer term basis, and they are assigned work on that basis. So if in the case of ad hoc assignments, an issue arises regarding that particular subject matter, then the potential for conflict arises.
So when she told you that there is a potential conflict between her and Social Security at the time, was she on retainership and not ad hoc?
Yes, it was. I think at the time, that was when she was already engaged by this letter of June 2017. Because the commission was established in July. And so the hearings about Social Security came subsequently after that.
Okay, we will find that out and then we will establish that.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Tamero. And I'm not sure you'll appreciate the question I asked yesterday about the need to do a due diligence in this particular aspect, because I'm sure certainly if the due diligence was done on the particular Counsel Ben Suda, you would have realized that actually she has some relationship with some of the companies that are on that will be under investigation during the thing. Now, I want to also bring your attention to a letter here from the Commission of Inquiry dated 12 February 2019. And the letter was addressed to Augustus Prom, the receiver, from the Commission of Inquiry. And the subject is receiver fees for Social Security hotels, that is Ocean Bay Hotels and Sun Beach Hotel. I read, a reference is made to the meeting held on Monday, 4th February 2019, between the commissioners, lead counsel, and yourself, as a receiver to the two hotels mentioned above. And one of the points discussed was setting a reasonable fee for the receivership of the hotels. And it was brought to our attention that 10% of gross revenue on each hotel had been taken as your monthly fee. Concerns were expressed on why such exorbitant amounts were paid to yourself without making an application for approval and payment of fees, etc. Then, in the last paragraph here, it says, the role, powers, and obligations of the interim receiver are to act as custodian of the hotels to protect the assets. The interim receiver has no custodial or monitoring role. The interim receiver has neither the right nor the responsibility of running today operation of the business. So you can clearly see here that the counsel for the commission in 2019, in fact, that was a time when the commission was even winding up, still is dealing with the receivership as far as Social Security is concerned. So you're going to see that the relationship, it did not actually end in 2017. And that's the reason why we are saying throughout the process, you see that there were conflicts. Because again, she has a lot of relationship with Social Security, and it's very evident by the letter from the commission. Now, the other aspect of the letter from the commission, it may not concern you because of their independent body, but what they were trying to restrict the receiver, that don't do this, don't do that. And when you go to the Companies Act 2013, you realize that actually there was an issue of misleading the receiver because of the powers they were trying to tell him that he has only. In fact, the receiver's power extends beyond that as per the laws of the country. So my issue here, just like what the chair was actually saying, and since yesterday, it is a well-established fact. There was indeed a conflict between the counsel of the commission and in relation to the companies that are under investigation, because she has a direct relationship, Social Security for one, and then you're talking about the other two I mentioned, yesterday. So essentially, that distinction actually has never been separated throughout the process. You may have appointed Bachelet at some point, but you will still realize that the council never separated herself from the action of Social Security, from the receivership throughout. So the conflict actually continued, even though you attempted to try to dilute her, actions representing the commission and at the same time dealing with the thing. But you can clearly see that actually it has not stopped. By virtue of these letters and additional letters that I don't want to read for the sake of time.
If I may just react to Honorable Member for Upper Salem. You raised very pertinent issues as well. But the starting point again for me is that due diligence was indeed done in this case. Because due diligence includes raising an issue beforehand to us. And perhaps maybe this is an opportunity for me to also share with you that in fact due diligence was conducted in the appointment of all members of all commissions, maybe except for to a lesser degree members of the Constitutional Review Commission, to a lesser degree, because I wouldn't want to be conducting due diligence to on judges. So, and this occurred in different forms. Some of them I would write to the Inspector General of Police to ask to do a background check. Others I would call, more sensitive ones I would call and ask for the IGP to ask his trusted lieutenants to look into matters, because at the time documents were leaking on social media and I wanted to avoid all of that. But just to say again, it goes back to my comment yesterday. Our practices evolved over time. Once we had more time, we settled down to a pattern and we evolved in the way we approach things. These were still in the early days. This was in June when I met with the commissioners and lead counsel to propose the assignments. And so at that point, the most I can do is to raise the issues and ask if there were any reasons why they couldn't take these assignments. And I think that is due diligence as well, counsel. It was the best due diligence I could conduct at that time. That's first. Second, again, I do not know the nature of the relationship between Counsel Ben Suda and some of these state-owned enterprises at that time, in particular Social Security. But going back to the letter that you just read out, in terms of her relationship with Augustus Prom as receiver, I believe we are missing one fundamental point here, is that at this point in time, it was the commission that appointed Augustus Prom as receiver over the two hotels. It was not the government, it was the commission. And I believe Counsel Ben Suda was acting in the best interest of her client, Social Security. So again, going back to what I said yesterday, the interests of her client were aligned to her own interests by wanting Social Security, which is, again, we should not forget, it's a state-owned enterprise. It's an enterprise owned by Gambian taxpayers. And I was fully supportive of Social Security taking back these two hotels, because by this time, in 2019, evidence had been laid and established that the companies that were that had a lease of Social Security and Ozone Bay, on Sunset Hotel and Ozone Bay Hotel, were companies that were engaged in dubious activities by this point. And we wanted Social Security to take back their hotel. And if Augustus Prom was going to be sued in court, as they were already in court, the government was going to defend that action. And there is what's called, I don't want to get into legal terms here, but they could have handed over the hotels back, and if the lessors thought that it was a breach of contract, they were welcome to go to court. We were not afraid to go to court because we were standing on firm footing. So I fully supported the idea for Social Security to take back these two hotels. I think Counsel Ben Suda also wanted that. The government, cabinet wanted that. And that's why cabinet requested me to have a chat with Augustus Prom on this same issue. So all the interests were aligned here. So I don't see conflict insofar as Counsel Ben Suda and Social Security are concerned in respect of this particular issue.
Yes. I agree with you. But the interest here, like I told you yesterday, it was not only about the interest of Social Security and to a large extent the government, because the government actually owns Social Security. But it was also at her own interest, that is the interest of her firm. Because we have evidence, like I told you yesterday, that shows that she's actually telling Social Security how much commission she's going to earn when these things are completed. In fact, If it were only like on a basis where there is no charge on her side or on the side of her farm, then I will agree with you. Or like it was a pro bono, which means there was no fee. But if in the interest of social security, it's actually more because of her interest was also there. And her interest also was not only to ensure her client social security interest taken care of, but at the same time also the interest of her farm. So there was mutual interest. One for her client, social security, and also her interest for her farm, because it was not pro bono. She was free. So that's exactly what we're trying to say, that this particular instance, in fact, there was conflict, because she is providing something for her client, and the client also, she has, two clients actually. The client for the commission, and also the one for her farm. So she was in between, where she's getting both from the farm itself, for the farm, for the service of social security, but at the same time, for the commission that she was paid to represent legally. So that's exactly what we are trying to say in this particular instance.
Counsel, I can only respond based on the facts that I know and based on the scenarios that you present to me. I am sure Counsel Ben Suda is more than qualified to provide better explanations than I am, because she is directly, she has direct knowledge of these facts.
That's fine. That's fine. Thank you so very much. Counsel, can we proceed today?
Honorable Chair, it's Friday today, and it's almost the time it's like 10 minutes to the time we normally take breaks on Friday. So I don't know. Please provide some guidance here. Do I start, or do we just take the break, because it's almost Juma time?
It's 1:20 now. We can start at 2 o'clock, and we can break at least.
It's Friday today, so we usually take our breaks earlier than 2. We take it at 1:30. So I don't know. And today we have to give the witness opportunity to play as well. Before what happened last week, because the witness also says we did not give them an opportunity to play.
No, I would have
like last week's witness.
I would have demanded that for a Friday prayer today.
Exactly. So we cannot have that same mistake again.
Then we can break now, and we can come back at 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.